answers. We're looking for other people to give us answers because we're not in the field. When you're not in quarantine, obviously, you are able to detach from that world. You can cultivate original thought. You can cultivate free thought. A good example, here on the land, we are constantly trying to problem solve, right? Right now, we're trying to connect our water. So we're figuring out, how do we connect the water? Is it going to be gravity fed? Are we going to put a pump over it? We've never done this before. So myself and Toster, we spend a lot of time, with this water thing, thinking, right? What do we do? How are we going to do this? We don't know how to. We've never been trained in this. We are cultivating original thought. We are doing things that are unconventional. We are going above and beyond our box of understanding certain concepts. That is a mental exercise. We are exercising our consciousness. We're exercising our God-given right to create something new. Now, we're lucky we're not under quarantine. We're able to do that. The rest of the world, if you're under quarantine, you can't do that. Now, normally, you are able to do that at work. When you work, let's say you're a chef, let's say, a cook. You're constantly trying to problem solve, right? Something happens, oh, this recipe, I need to fix this, or one of your workers hasn't made it for work, you need to rewrite the rota. You've got to think. You're forced to use or exercise that power of creation, that power of mind. Right now, what they're doing is they're trying to destroy original thought. They're turning everyone into an AI, making everyone think the same. And this includes conspiracy theorists. This is why you will see right now the big rage is David Icke and Rose, right? That Rose channel, that Rose guy, London Real and David Icke is being pushed in the conspiracy world. Of course, they're doing it as if, oh, they're being shadow banned. But trust me, all of that, they are pushing it. They are encouraging it. Because what it's doing is forcing you to pick a side. It's forcing you to think along the lines of whatever they want you to think, whatever London Real is trying to say, whatever David Icke is trying to say. It's polarizing you. You don't have a mind of your own. This is the warfare that is happening as well on top of everything. So I'll leave it there. Again, I could talk on and on about this because I'm really excited about delving into this topic of energy. Anyway, Tao, do you want to jump in? And welcome, by the way. I think this is a new panelist or a new voice. So welcome to the panel, first of all, and thank you for raising your hand.
Yes, sir. You hear me?
Loud and clear.
Oh, man, thank you for your service, Martin. Thank you, everybody, for your service, man. I appreciate y'all. Just, want to say thank you before I got into it a little bit. Really, I feel like, in general, man, the thing that's taken most for granted is our breath, man. And I really, from my studies of the breath, it's just parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. If you're breathing 18 or more breaths per minute, you're locked in the sympathetic nervous system. So you're locked in that heart down space, those lower chakras, what people call. So if you're controlling your breathing more, you're doing 1 breath per minute, you're going into parasympathetic. And that's where we heal the most. That's where we go into the delta waves. That's how when we're dreaming, when we get those intuitive connections, those thoughts that are beyond or before mind, really, like that awareness, really, because thinking is really kind of like, it can bring you to awareness, but it's not awareness. Awareness is another bag. So like, really, the amount of breaths per minute is what determines your nervous system state, and that determines your algorithm. And like the world as a collective is on an algorithm, a breathing algorithm. So if we're all breathing shallow, then we all manifest from a shallow place. But if we breathe deeply and correctly, like babies do, because babies breathe from their diaphragm, their belly, and they expand, they do it naturally. And but that's before the trauma. So we all been traumatized one way or another, emotionally, physically, however, and it makes the breath shallow, and then it drives the manifestation into a shallow place. And then it just creates that void, because there's no connection in that, and people aren't really connected with that lower abdomen area. That it's not that those cells aren't breathing, because again, the food, the inflammatory foods, all these inflammatory foods and the flesh and everything, the cooked foods, all of that is creating inflammation, and the plaque is building up. Because when you eat something and you get the plaque on your teeth, that plaque is left everywhere on the body. Everywhere that that food travels throughout you, that plaque is being left, and throughout the years, it's a film that builds up and calcifies, and all of those cells beneath it, they can't breathe, and so they can't communicate with each other. And that's really how like life communicates, is through the breath. So when the cells can't breathe, and there's you know, the parasites manifest in that plaque, and then you have parasites in your gut, you know, and overrunning the gut, and then you know, basically that's the lower brain, as above so below, and it creates a whole parasitic environment. And then all of these inflammatory foods, you know, everybody, the huge thing right now with men, you know, is prostate cancer and colon cancer, and a lot of that has to do with the inflammatory foods. And when that is down there in the rectum and everything, pushing all that food and that plaque, pushing against the prostate, it makes you hypersexualized. So the triggers can be so subtle and may just turn you right into a hypersexualized being, just because you know you're already pressurized there. It's because you know life, like you know, the cosmic egg and everything, it's a pressurized field. You know, it's a quantum energetic field. So you know, when you change that pattern of the breath, then you change the circulation of the blood, and blood is liquid consciousness. So when people are just eating things that keep that blood in the lower realms, and then they're masturbating and keeping all that blood in the reproductive organs, then all that liquid consciousness is down there, and they never inhabit those upper parts of their body. Like it's just completely taken for granted and being used. It's not like it goes to waste. Nothing goes to waste here. Everything is being used. It's just that when you don't use it consciously, it's going to get used against you. And so the thing that we can all take advantage of and empower us most, and that we all have control of, is our breathing algorithm. And that changes, that's the spirit. The breath is the spirit, literally, that is the spirit. So I feel like if you had a collective that was gradually changing this overall algorithm of humanity, like the breathing algorithm, it would change everything. Our whole total perspective would change. And I know a lot of people think it's subtle and it's overlooked and everything, and they're in the grid and everything. But if they started breathing, even in a bad environment, their manifestation would change. Everything would change. It would have to. It's just the spirit. As soon as you allow the spirit to run through you and you accept the breath and the breath catches you, your whole everything changes. And that's what they really don't want. They want you to stay in sympathetic. They want you to stay in fight or flight mode. They want you to stay on the coffee and all those things that burn out your adrenal glands, so that you're constantly, when you're going to sleep at night, you never really get into REM sleep, because you have all this food down there and your people are passing out. They're not really consciously going to sleep. So they're going to sleep, shallow breathing, they pass out, and then they're going back to those traumas, because that's a lot of it, is people are eating to block those traumas, turn that, you know, to kind of like muffle that microphone. So when they're going to sleep at night, they're never really getting into REM and getting that rest and that reset, and the dreams are all fragmented, because when they're going to sleep and they're addressing those parts of their subconscious and they're finally breathing, because sleep is basically unconscious breath work. When you're going into that state, that REM state, you're just addressing all of those traumas that haven't been addressed in a conscious way. Now, if you consciously go into breath work, 1 breath per minute, close your eyes, feel the oneness, be in that darkness so that the internal light can shine. If you go into that, then you can release that through the breath, through the spirit. But if you're going to sleep unconsciously, passing out, shallow breathing, and you haven't addressed your traumas consciously, you're going to constantly dream those. And then while you're sleeping, the adrenal glands are going to release all that adrenaline, because it doesn't matter. If you're dreaming to have a stressful dream, you know how it is, man. You wake up and you're stressed out and you're tired. It's because you've been in your dream running and paranoid in your dream because of these, you know, the traumas that are unaddressed. So once you go to sleep and that adrenaline gets released, your body's going into fight or flight mode, whether you're conscious in this body or in a parallel to dream, whatever you want to call it. Your body's in that fight or flight mode. And when that happens, the blood is leaving the digestion. So then you're not digesting your food properly, and the parasites are now fueled by all that food that wasn't being processed. So you're basically in a passenger seat position in your waking life and your dreaming life. And the only way to get back in that alignment is through the conscious breathing. And it's one of those things that we all have control over. You know, we can start right now. We can all change our breathing right now. And then it leads, because as far as the elemental, the way life manifests, it's going from nothing to something, or from less dense to dense. So, obviously, the body's kind of like dense spirit or dense breath. So if we're going to look at the elemental, the pattern of creation is going from ether or air to fire to water to earth. And it's all really just denser breath. You know, water is just essentially dense air. So it's the same. It's like basically like you got air, it concentrates and vibrates on itself harder, and then you get the flame, you get the fire, and then as the air gets more warm, you get humidity. So then you get rain and water. And then when you have all that humidity and warmth, then you get the algae and the earth and all that basically decaying light being, you know, manifesting as earth. So that's kind of like the chain of creation. And if we start our day with breath work and start with the air element first instead of those other elements, we're putting the pyramid in order correctly. Right now, we're waking up, we're jolting out of our sleep from a traumatic sleeping experience. And then we get up and then we don't follow the natural pattern. We're not in accord with the natural pattern of peace that life is expressing itself. You know, Earth isn't rushing. I mean, the sun isn't rushing up and rushing down. It's gradually getting into its place. And we just have to follow the elemental balance of things if we want to undo things and find our way out, you know, because it's really basic. And I feel like it's something that we all take for granted. And until that, you know, you get into that point where you're dying and you're taking your last breaths, you might not remember, you might not even be realizing that I've been investing my breath into all these things all my life. And now I'm at my last breaths, because that's really what life is in breaths. So like, we go to work every day and we're exchanging our breaths of life for money. So money itself is really dense breath. I mean, if you take it even further than that, you're breathing in, basically you're breathing in the air, the prana, the spirit, and the heart is pretty much amplifying it into blood. And so the blood is basically dense breath. Like, you know, with breath comes consciousness. When you leave, when the breath is gone, there is no consciousness. So that's pretty much the link, I feel, between the breath, as it gets denser, the blood, as it gets denser, bones, as it gets denser, you have the flesh, the tissue. And if we go back, you know, the path forward seems to go back. If we go back and put the breath first, then we can see the way the breath shapes our life, and the way, if we're breathing shallow, we're always gonna be locked in our consciousness will constantly be locked in that place, in a shallow place, and we'll always feel againstness. But if we're in parasympathetic, we'll have that oneness, that state of oneness there. And it's really just gonna boil down to the breath. And it's something that we all have control over, man. Everything else complements the breath. I feel like, you know, the healing sounds, all of those things are great. But I just really feel like we could all, you know, harp on that for a moment. As far as a collective, I feel like it's really overlooked and something we all have control over.
Wow. Tao, you've just blown the lid off of this. Yes, absolutely. I mean, for me personally, I can see in the chat room, it's going crazy. People are just blown away, and I can't wait for everyone else to listen to this, because this is absolute of paramount importance. And those who have been here at Pineal know how long I've been saying to people, I can't wait till we can get on this breath thing. I can't wait till I'm doing proper breath work, because again, intuitively, something is telling me that is a big piece of the puzzle. And I know Torste here at Pineal has started practicing tantric breath work just this week. You know, so this is a topic that we've been talking about, and you've come at exactly the right time when, you know, for us at least. But also, more to the point, what you're saying has just really filled in the gaps for me personally, you know, to a concept that I kind of understood, but did not have the details to. So for instance, you all know I've been saying that in 2020, this year, there's going to be a cosmic event, and it's got something to do with the torus fields, electromagnetic energy, the aurora borealis, upgrading our DNA, etc., etc. Well, what is that? What is that energy? Well, that energy is breath. That is the breath of God. That's what it is. It's breath. And how do you ingest that breath? Well, by breathing it in. And the more you breathe it in, obviously, the more heightened, based on what Tao is saying, it makes total sense. Then obviously, the more heightened that upgrade is going to be happening to you. And again, it now makes sense exactly why they're telling us to wear masks this year. You've got to wear masks. Why? They don't want you to be breathing in this prana. They don't want you to be getting in that breath, that Holy Spirit breath. They want your breath to be shallow. They want your breath to be tainted. They want your breath to be restricted. So it's not just symbolic, it is a literal. This is where they are now bringing the spiritual warfare into the physical. This is why they want people quarantined. We don't want you outside in nature. Why? Because that's where the breath is flowing. We want you in your house, locked up, away from the breath. And when you're outside, make sure your mouth is covered and your nose, so you're not breathing in. Your breath is wrong. So not only do we not know how to breathe, on top of that, we're restricting the limited knowledge of breath that we have anyway. So this war is insane. It's on so many levels. It's ridiculous. And what Tao is saying right now is just confirming why so many things are being implemented and exactly what is happening right now. So Tao, thank you so much, brother. I hope you can share a lot more. If you could make videos or whatever, look, brother, this platform is here for you. If you want to share your stuff, if you want to make a video, I don't know if you've got a channel, but if you want to share stuff, you're more than welcome to make videos, and we will share them on this platform because people need to hear this information. I need to hear this information with breathwork. This is my next phase for sure. So you've come at the perfect time. So thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. No, I mean, I definitely have a channel. It's Tao Lore. It's the same channel, you know, as my name I got on here. And I really, yeah, like you were saying, to agree with what you're saying, when this event happens, I feel like the light spectrum is gradually expanding right now, and there's more light in the air, and it makes it much easier to be breatharian and not need the system, the B system. And again, yeah, 18 breaths per minute, 666, 18. That's when you're in that sympathetic nervous system. And I really feel like those of us like you, like everybody on this line right now, we are the people that are going to change this algorithm for the others that, you know, that are, I guess, receptive enough to go forward with us here. And I feel like, yeah, definitely when that event happens, there'll be a light spectrum expansion, and there will be so much more light in the air, and that will be a huge purge, because the people, you know, that haven't been cleansing and everything like that, when they start to inhale all that light, it's going to force the purge. And I feel like it'll probably be similar to a heavy psychedelic trip, because the pineal the first eye will probably get so activated. And if those traumas aren't addressed, I really feel like it'll be like a bird box effect, where everybody will have to address all those traumas in that point in time. And a lot of people will probably take themselves out because it's just so much and they want it to stop, like a bad trip. And I think that if we prime our bodies now, you know, just like if anybody's doing plant medicine, if they prime their body with breath work prior to, they can retain so much more of that experience. And it's not just used as a drug and, you know, you're just abusing your body and life itself. And I feel like if we're to prime our bodies now as a collective, for the people that are aware here, that aren't the holograms basically on Instagram, basically we will be the superhumans, the supernatural. And I know, I just want to impart with this last part, man. I know you guys got a lot to say and you guys are great. I just want to say, for all the people that might be afraid, man, it's the unnatural is feeding off the natural. It can't beat its power source, just like the natural is feeding off the supernatural. You can't beat your power source. And the nature of change, if anybody's read the I Ching, it has to get completely dark before it gets light again, or completely light before it gets dark again, however you want to look at it. And that's just the nature of change. And it's going to appear one way. It's going to appear like, you know, the sky is falling and everything. But those of us that are in this awareness, you know, thank you to Martin Kinney for bringing this to us, really shaping this and bringing it in a clear way. We realize that when the sky is falling, it's actually, you know, the foundation for a great thing. And I just want to say thank you, man. Thank you for having me. And I appreciate you, man. Please keep going. And you know, everybody, we really definitely need this right now. And yeah, just thank you, man. Just really grateful every breath. Just appreciate every breath, man. The more you appreciate, the more you appreciate.
Oh, thank you. No, thank you, Tao. Really appreciate
Wow.
you too, brother. Really, really thank you.
That was brilliant. I just have to jump in real quick and say, I love that. That is so fundamental to remember, that phrase, my brother. You cannot beat your power source. Wow, doesn't that wrap that up? You know what I mean? This whole idea that, you know, that's just fundamentally makes sense, you know, and that's, I know we talk that all the time, but you know how we like our little mantras and our little, you know, our little cones. That's a wonderful koan, you know, just, you can't beat your power source. So thank you so much for that. And just real quick on that breath work, he ain't never lied about that breath work thing, because I've been doing my Tai Chi for only 4 going on 5 years now. So I'm just a babe at it. But we work on the breath all the time. And it's so amazing with each level of me breathing in, hold it 5 counts, breathe out 5 counts, hold 5 counts, breathe back in 5, hold at the top, that kind of thing. And you get used to 5 and you go to 6. And it's amazing how the body will try to resist it. You'll start yawning, getting all tired, and you realize, golly, how deprived my cellular structure is of oxygen. And this whole idea, like you said, the parasympathetic, the body just gets used to operating a certain kind of way, and breathing is the most fundamental aspect of of life, right? And so I just wanted to just say that's brilliant. And actually, if you could point us and our community to some of the practical breath work steps that you enjoy, you find powerful, because there's so many different ways to approach breath work. What I suggest is just one of the ways I do it with my Tai Chi teacher. But yeah, just for those who have not thought about it like that, some practical things that people can do to just start that process. So I'll sign off, but that was brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing, Tao.
Oh yeah, no, thank you. I would just say everybody look into Tummo breathing, TUMMO. I feel like Wim Hof is a nice introduction, but that will keep you in the sympathetic still because it's too many breaths per minute. But if you use that to cool off, well, when you're, I guess you do 20 to 30 Tummo breaths of 1 breath per minute, where you're expanding the diaphragm and holding the locks, the roof of the tongue at the roof of the mouth, and then you're locking the bandha, the root chakra, by applying that pressure that you would apply to like stop your urine midstream. It's that same pressure. Once you get the breath fully in the lungs and the lower lungs.
Tao, I'm just going to stop you because I've just decided we're definitely going to do a hangout together. I'm going to interview you. So save it.
Yes,
let's connect. And, I think for me personally, I need to hear this information. And I'm sure many people as well listening to this need this vital information. This is now the last line of defense, really, the breath. So I'm keen to interview you if you're up for it, and just you can just share your knowledge, and we can have a great hangout if that's something you're interested in.
Yes, sir, man. I guess I'm gonna let you do your thing, man. I'm sorry for holding up the line there, man.
No, brother, it's been perfect. I don't want it to be lost in translation. So I just want to preserve this conversation and savor. You've given us so much to digest already, and let's hook up in the next few days and really dissect this topic and break it down, and give you a good 3 hours where you just completely just break all this down for everyone and prepare us. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, man. I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. Oh, fantastic. This is brilliant. And this is why, guys, we all need to be together. This is why it's important for us to find a space where we can all get together. Wisdom like this is crucial. And, again, Tao, as soon as the borders open, you don't have a choice. You've got to be in Portugal with us. You're a big piece of the puzzle.
Yes, so, yeah. I got a friend out there. He sells real estate, and he always, he asked me. I sent you his number on Facebook. I know you get flooded with a lot of people, but I definitely was, trying to, I guess, triangulate there and link up. So I definitely have that, and I'm cognizant of that, man. I definitely feel like that's a beautiful situation there.
Awesome, brilliant, love it. Oh man, yes. Let's not get too sidetracked. This is just high vibration stuff. Really, really high vibration. I think I'm going to pass over to Pete. Pete has been so patient, and Pete has got a good demeanor like that. He just sits patiently. Pete, the mic is yours, brother. I'm sure there's stuff you're dying to divulge. You there, Pete?
Yeah, I mean, first, just thanks to Tao. I mean, what a beautiful message, but as also, yep, just an incredible calming and soothing voice. And so very articulate. I enjoyed that very much. And what it made me think of, I had other things I was going to share, but I'm going to, connect it right back to the breath. From an etymological standpoint, B-R-E-A-T-H. So the E-A, what we often interpret as an A, like the lowercase a, is just the E inverted or rotated 180 degrees.